Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on your Tuesday morning. Something a little bit different this week. Mitchy boy is off to Japan today, I believe, and Jamie's off in Rome. So I've auto subbed in from the emergencies today. So a little bit different. I'll cover Mitch's team to start with. We'll talk about the week in general, talk about some trade options, and talk about my team. For those that don't know, I won Jamie's private group in the first year, which was pretty cool. Obviously, it was a little bit smaller than it is now. It's absolutely massive now, and Jamie's done an awesome job with that. Mitch has been crushing it with these videos lately, so I'm not going to be anywhere near his like S tier level commentary, and no Gilbert rants maybe from me, but maybe you'll get a safe Arth rant later on. We'll see. So yeah, let's kick it off. It was a rough week, I think, for a lot of people. 800 points got you a bunch of ranks, which is pretty rare. Captaincy fails from Payne Haas. May did okay. Cleary was the one to pick. Unfortunately, Mitch or myself, both of us didn't pick Cleary. I think if you got in Payne Haas recently, he was the captain play. Going into next week, I think that's up for debate a little bit more. But yeah, it was a bit of a tough one. We had Humphreys go down. Um, Started so well with so many Raiders for a lot of people. And unfortunately for Mitch, you can see in his team that his only Raider is Tamale, who updated to 41 in the end, which was nice to see. So yeah, you can see Mitch got a 729 overall rank down to 8,064. This guy has made back-to-back top 100, so we know he's going to bounce back. It's just a matter of what's he doing this week. I'll try and share a little bit of insight from him. We had a chat before he left, and I think he's going to try and double gun. Looking at his team, Cole played Cole. We both played Cole, unfortunately, and the Cole over Sandon pick. It's 30 points right there, and that bumps his score up to a bit more of a respectable score of 760 if he went that way. Ponga absolutely flopping with 25 is rough. Some people are a bit worried. He's going to drop a bit of cash potentially, but I think just with the lack of really top tier options at the moment, I feel like moving him sideways is just, yeah, I just don't think it's a great move, especially he's playing the Tigers this week. He's got a few easy matchups. I think everyone's got enough trade outs with Humphreys and the likes of Seyfarth, Cole. So I don't think we'll be looking to yeet Ponga this week, but maybe if he puts up another couple of 20 scores, he could be on the chopping block. Doesn't look like Reece Walsh is going to make Origin this year, so Ponga will probably make Origin at this point. So we can just assess it as we get closer. But he's playing that seven role at the moment. Well, he's coming in and playing first receiver rather, and it was working in the first few rounds, and now it's maybe not so great for fantasy when they're not putting up big scores. So something to monitor, but I don't think Mitch or I will be selling anytime soon. So Humphreys is the big one this week. Who to move Humphreys to? We'll go through some of those options later. Unfortunately, Mitch had Hopgood, which stank it up starting at hooker for 20 minutes. That was pretty rough. So I have him in Supercoach as well. I think I'm going to sell him there, but I think I would hold him in fantasy for at least a couple more weeks. The reason being he's just not going to get attacking stats in this Parramatta team. As a Parramatta fan, it's a rough watch. At least going into the games, I'm prepared to watch us lose this year. So if we win, it's a surprise. But yeah, it doesn't look like Riles rates Hopgood maybe quite as high as Arthur's did. He's one of the best players in the team, but I'm not sure. He's going for a little bit of a different style this year, so we'll have to see how that pans out. Isaiah Yeo putting up 69 is massive. This is why we paid so much to get him in round one. He's a great buy-in if you don't have him. Great bring in him, Tarpany. I'd probably go Yo over Tarpany, even with the cash savings. He's just going to be that reliable guy. Tarpany does have the better, cover during Origin though, so that's something to think about. But how many Raiders do you want in your team is another point. Jenkins did well. Mitch brought in Jenkins and Egan last week, and both of them did well. He traded out Iongi, and I'm not sure who else he traded out, but he traded out Iongi, and yeah, Iongi went off for 59. Unfortunately, I traded him out as well, and that was a bit of a rough one. We could see it coming. We could see it coming at some point. He has that explosive potential, and he looks really good. Riles afterwards was really rating him, saying he was one of the best players in every game so far. So I don't think he's going anywhere, and he could even be a bring in if he can back it up. But I think most people got off him last week, or if not the week before. I think 530 out of the top 1,000 took him out last week. So yeah, at the end of the day, Jenkins and Egan both made money, so more money than Iongi, and it kind of helps with team structure when you cash down to those more basement guys from like a 350 guy. It just frees up that extra 100K that you can where you can upgrade a Safarth or someone like that. So I don't hate that. Purdue, you can see sitting down there in the eighth spot. I was listening to someone say today that Purdue is probably just going to keep ticking along in their emergencies until he gets to 500, 600K, because as soon as you play him, he's going to put up 8 points in 80 minutes or something like that. So, yeah, definitely a looping target. If you can loop him, I would definitely be looking at that. Just looking at the schedule, they play on Saturday. So, yeah, it's middle of the week. Probably not the best looping option, but anyway, uh, Toa popped off at 52, so a lot of people own him. I unfortunately don't, and it was pretty rough watching that game with Payne Haas captain. Toa just going for 59 until he got the sin bin. So thank God he got the sin bin. I was death riding him hard, and we had Safar stinking it up. We had May outperforming Haas. It was just, I was so keen to watch that Broncos Tigers game. Had a few mates over, we're all into fantasy, and it was just a disaster for fantasy. My week is going pretty good until then. But yeah, this is Mitch's team. He had Fisher Harris on the bye, played Toya. So yeah, we'll switch over to my team. So I scored a slightly more respectable 774, but not exactly the score I wanted to get this week coming on to do my own solo video. We going back to the week before, we were 4,810. So we lost about 950 ranks. It's not the worst thing in the world to have a bad week and only lose, go back 20% of your rank or 25% of your rank, something like that. So yeah, pretty rough round five rank, but we will move on. I'm already happy with my structure. I've got a lot of kind of interesting dilemmas this week as to who to pick and who to yeet. Um, as you can see, I kept Gilbert. The reason being, I was really unsure on my trades last week. I pretty much locked in Nwanga Nitawase to Jenkins early. As soon as he was ruled out, I did that trade. And then that kind of freed me up some cash to possibly make other moves that I wasn't actually thinking of right up until then. So as a fantasy manager, fantasy coach, whatever you call us, I like to keep myself flexible during the week. So I might have a completely different idea of what I'm going to do going into the round to what happens during the week. So I try and have a general idea and a little bit like, if this player does this, if this player scores well, then, I'll play this player or trade this player in. But when someone's a laid out like this, I find it you kind of have to be pretty nimble to decide what to do. So we'll talk about it in a sec, but I think this season, because everyone's making so much cash, it's a little bit less relevant to get in the cashies. And this is might be controversial, but if you think about it like this, if last year, so if you watched Nicky's video last week, he showed that I think the top 10 this year have an extra million or something like that. But at the same point in round five, going into round five, it's a lot. So if you think about how much cash you need, it's all percentage based. And, if we look at my team at the moment, I'm sitting with a squad value of around 12 million. And you can see that, I'm not too far behind the pack. We've got 12.4 here. There's not really anyone over 12. I'm sure there are, but there's not many people over 12.5. So I'm pretty happy with my squad value sticking with the pack here. But essentially, we've gained 20% on our initial investment of 10 million. Now, if that was sitting at 10%, I think, or 15%, getting a cashies would be much more important because obviously the cash you make, similar to investing, the cash you make actually compounds. So once we get the 12 million, it's easier to roll into the 13, the 14, the 15. And realistically, if you've got a team full of guns, you're not needing to, like, we might make more cash this season than we actually need to field a 17 players of all guns. So I'm a little bit, I'm sticking to the guns and cash cows for the most part in my thinking. So I'm trying to go down to the basement guys and avoid the mid ranges from here. So I'm trying to I'm trying to upgrade the likes of Seyfarth, Gilbert, these kind of guys, and get them out of my team as soon as possible, and either flick them up to a gun or down to a cashy. Now, coming into this week, you can see I've got 30 trades left. I've banked two so far, and then I've got 249K in the bank. So even though I didn't have a great week last week, I'm pretty happy with where I'm positioned. I've got two gun-wing fullbacks in Ponga and Campbell. My centers are pretty sorted with Kaltonga and Toya. We've got Humphreys to move on. Seyfarth is stinking it up, obviously. Gilbert, I'm happy to give another week to just see where he's at after his break. I started with him, so he's made me some cash. I'm not too stressed there. I decided to loop him kind of late last week because Tamale was going to update to 41. So once Tamale was going to update to 41, before that, I was looking to spend the cash and upgrade Gilbert to potentially a Preston or someone like that, and then use Preston as a looper this week. But I changed my mind. I decided to just go Iongi to Egan to, free up cash and give myself more options this week. Now, you could say it worked out. You could say it didn't. Iongi went off. I would have got more points last week. And I think this season, because we're making so much cash, I think points are really important and prioritizing points are really important. When I did really well a couple of seasons ago, because I was wanting to stay in that top 100 every week, all my decisions was based around how many points can I get this week. And when you start to adopt a bit of a longer term mentality, sometimes you get stuck in, and this is kind of what I was a little bit guilty of last season, was I adopted too much of a long-term strategy, saved some trades and, held on to players a little bit too long, things like that. And then I ended up costing myself too many ranks, and it was just hard to make them up back end of the season. You needed a lot of luck. So this season, I really want to push for points early, and I think at my current rank, I need to start making some moves because I really want to get close to that 1K pretty soon, so I can start moving up towards that top 100 if possible. Now, to do that, obviously, I've got to get rid of some of this trash in my team. I had Seyfarth last year, and coming into preseason, I usually come in late. I usually like to come in with as trials are starting, I don't like to come in like 3 months in advance and start planning back then because so much changes between now and then. But I was interested to see that everyone was picking Seyfarth in the fantasy community, and I was pretty against it, but I went with it just because everyone was doing it a little bit, like go with the pack, and then if it doesn't work out, it's only one trade to get rid of him. But I had him last year for 5 weeks or so, and oh man, watching him every week plod it along was pretty tragic. I get it. He scored a try recently. He got a line break try assist. But he's plays for the Tigers. Like he's just not going to get attacking stats all that often. He does have a low break even this week of 33, but I just want to get rid of him. Like if he continues to score his average of 43, he makes 11K and then he makes 5K and then he's basically at 43, like priced at 43. So I'm pretty keen to get rid of him. I've got quite a few options of what I can do with trades. So let's jump in and have a look. Halves wise, I think the standout option to me is Fogarty. And I've got his stats up here. So this season, his lowest score is 41, and he's only got what that's his only score below 55. 65 last week with no attacking stats. The one thing that is concerning me a little bit with Fogarty is he's not running the ball at all. You can see 9 meters against the Cowboys and 19 meters against the Sharks, which is gross. But the man loves to kick. Four forced dropouts against the Cowboys, big kick meters, averaging 440 kick meters. He loves a tackle too, 26 tackles, which is a lot for a half. He doesn't miss too many. But yeah, if he started running the ball more, these tackle busts and offloads would go up, obviously. Last year, I got on Fogarty too late and then he got injured. So that was a big regret of mine. And I think this year, I'm just going to make the sensible choice and get him in. He's pretty low owned, which is great. Everyone has a lot of Raiders, so adding in Fogarty isn't great. But look at his next three matchups: Parramatta, Gold Coast, and Dolphins. And then Storm, but then, two home games and then the Wars in the bye round. So I think he's a great pick. I will probably go there this time round. He's priced at 52, averaging 54. So there's a little bit of value there. You would think he's going to average around that 55 mark. So I think he's a really good pick. He's pretty low risk. He's just going to get his base stats and then occasionally he's going to get a try and he's going to get 70 or 80 points and that will bump his average up eventually. He has got zero point 0.8 try assists per game, so it's not like he's not getting any attacking stats, but the Raiders are a decent team. They'll get some attacking stats. So let's get rid of Mitch's team. I'm just going to lock him in for now. Not going to mess around there. Other options, obviously, you've got Hines, you've got Hughes, you've got DCE. They all kind of have their pros and cons. I think Hughes and Hines are the kind of fun punts. I don't have any Melbourne or Sharks players, and for the most part, they're good teams. Hughes is pretty interesting. I mean, he's averaging 40. He's just got so much cash to lose. That's the thing. I think he's better pick up in about 3 or 4 rounds once he's lost that cash. So if he averages 50, he's still got another 60K to drop. He can come out and score the tries and, really bump that up quick and fix his break even. It wouldn't surprise me if he comes out against the Wars and, punches out a 78 and hits his break even. But I think the safer play is just go with Fogarty this week and then kind of reassess. Other options, yeah, Hines. It's pretty well documented. Hines is struggling at the moment. High break even. I think we can just wait on Hines. A couple of years ago or last year, we would have just dived straight in. Reynolds, got injured. People were looking at him because he was averaging 60 odd. Um, he's going to get injured. It's part of his base stats, so don't go there. Moses, you could wait a week. You could put a Campbell into your half position and then go for like a Moses or Burton when he's back or something like that. But I think they both have their own risks. Moses hasn't been super great since they reduced the kick meters to being, every 30 meters instead of every 20 meters. He's going to rely on attacking stats. Parramatta are not a great team at the moment, so I probably would avoid that. Fletcher Sharp kind of showed us what he can put up when he's not getting the attacking stats. Still averaging 55 though, so I don't mind the punt. So yeah, who else have we got? It's pretty dire at the moment, to be honest. There's no standout options. Katoa, look, I don't mind it. He's averaging 55, which is pretty huge. Let's have a look at his stats. It's pretty under the radar, that 55, to be honest. I know a couple of people talking about him, but not many. So he's got one try, two try assists. Um, Besides that, a lot of kick meters. He's running the ball a lot, which is good to see for a half. A couple of offloads. Like when you run the ball, you're going to get offloads, tackle breaks, that kind of thing. So I actually don't mind that shout. What's his fixtures like? Rabbitohs, Knights, Tigers, Broncos, Titan. No, sorry, that was what he's already done. Okay, so he plays round 12 and then doesn't play round 13. Look, I think it's a decent option. He's got the Panthers this week and then the Storm. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. If you like watching the Finns and you want to punt and you want to punt on the upside of him being a young kid that's gonna, continue to develop and continue to get better and bigger and stronger, look, I don't hate it. There's worse picks to go with. I just think for an extra 30K, just lock in Fogarty. Clifford, yeah, I probably would avoid. He's averaging 61 though, so if you want to go there, I mean, I can't turn you away. So other options that I've been thinking of is just getting a wing fullback. Um, One option that I could do if I wanted to is I could go Seyfarth and Humphreys to Latrell and David Fifita or something like that. So let's have a look at that. Oh, I'm gonna have to move on a bench. Anyway, I think I can afford to buy about 16K. I was looking at earlier. So that's a pretty BDE move if I was to just move Campbell into my half position and then get in Latrell wing fullback. Apparently he's playing half this week, but sorry, he's playing six this week. But I think it could just be a short-term play. He might just move back to the centers in a couple of weeks. He might go back to wing fullback. It's a little bit of a gamble, and it would be a very fun gamble. He's one of those really fun to watch players, but and he's got the kick meters. But I just feel like if I fade Fogarty and go with Latrell, I'll get stitched up somehow. So I don't know. I think I'm leaning the Fogarty route, but Latrell is a good option. 69 break even. So if you really like to punt and you really love watching Latrell, I will not talk anyone out of it. Um, it's a pretty fun move for sure. So there's that. So now Fogarty, I think I'll lock Fogarty in. Now the other option is for me, I have to get rid of Seyfarth. Obviously, there's Cole. He's not going to play this week though, so I don't really mind him just chilling there, not losing any money. He's got a break even at 15, so even if he comes back next week, he puts up a 30, he's going to make money still. He's going to like eke his way to 400K with a couple of 30s, so I think he's one that's fine to hold. Obviously, Blaze could come back and take his spot, but I feel like that's pretty unlikely. They don't seem to rate Blaze very highly, which is quite interesting. There's a lot of hype in the media about Blaze, especially leaving the Eels and going to Panthers, but it seems like the full preseason with Cole has kind of he's got the spot at the moment. His defense is earned like maybe keeping him in the spot for the most part, even though he was a turnstile last week. But yeah, so as you can see with my team, so what I like to do when I first change it over is I like to, look at the schedule and see where I should be putting my loopers if I have any, and then just like arrange my team in who's going to play first, who I want to captain, those kind of things. So Cole is playing the first game of the week. Ivan Cleary came out and said that he would be missing this week because he failed his HIA. So in an ideal world, I'd be putting him in my four slot and I'd be looping him with an outside back in my five slot or maybe a Sen and Smith. But unfortunately, he plays the first game. So the only real option would be to put him into the halfback slot and then loop a half in. But realistically, if I'm going for Fogarty, I'm going to be wanting to play Fogarty. So I think I'm not going to bother with Cole. I think I'm just going to chuck him down the bottom, not think about him. And then it's probably out of Tamale, Egan, or Smith who to play. Um, there's even the option of, putting Egan or a Smith in five, and then, if they do really well, you can creatively try and get their score. I like to sometimes do that to give myself the flexibility that if for whatever reason they turned up in the five slot, I could trade in like a Preston, and then I could get their score. So that's just something I like to do. Just as it's worked for me in the past. I know you shouldn't be trying to trade in non-playing players, but if you can loop in a big score, it's often worth it. So, I might put Smith there because he plays in the third game. But yeah, it's tough. Tamale, Smith, Egan, Jenkins, Katonga, Toya. Realistically, I think you could play any of them and you'd get a similar range of outcomes, to be honest. But let's take Seyfarth out because he's absolutely horrendous to watch. He's just such a plotter. He gets the Tigers without Luai were just pretty bad, and yeah, I just really don't want him. I just don't want to watch him. I don't want his face. Look at this face. I don't want it in my team anymore. I just want to get rid of it. So we're going to get rid of it. Um, let's have a look at who we can trade to. So with him gone, I will have 730K in the bank. So not quite a Preston, but Preston is someone that I really wanted going into last week, and I think I want to maybe potentially leave an option to get him next week, if possible. So that might play into my thinking, maybe a Gilbert stinks it up again, and I go, he's got to go, and he misses 10 tackles against the Panthers. So I will potentially like this is where leaving some cash in the bank. If you're looking at like and planning more than a week ahead is quite important. So you don't want to get to next week and then Preston, you really want Preston, but you've got no way to get him. So it's always good to just think 1 week ahead, think, okay, who's going to be coming back from the bye? What's going to be happening in a week or two? And just kind of keeping the door open if you can for those options. But you can see that if I get rid of Seyfarth, I don't need an edge. I've got Egan there. He's a fine deputy. And then, I've got Matty Nicholson and Gilbert for now. But I don't have a real strong keeper edge. And I've got Katonga, but I don't really have a strong keeper edge. So I'd really like to get one in, which, I'd love to get Preston in. But some of the options that I've been looking at are Siwa Wong. So I mean, I nearly traded him in last week, last minute. As I said, my trades were a little bit up in the air. And, when Jamie said he was getting on him and I was on the fence, like him or Preston, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll give him a couple of weeks. And then if he stinks it up, I can just move to Preston. But last minute I just reversed it because I was just like, oh, look, I'm not going to be watching the game because I was out and I don't know. I just wasn't sure he was going to get the minutes, and I wasn't sure the role was going to stick. But you can see if when he starts the second row, getting over 60 minutes, he's averaging 56. If you just filter it to this season, he's averaging 62, which is pretty massive. No tries in that, like one try assist in those 4 games, 42 tackles. So I think 42 tackles in 76 minutes, like that is a massive stat. And you got Lindsay Collins dropping out of the side. So yeah, guys, I reckon he could be a goer. Jamie might be on something there. And 3 missed tackles, 2 offloads. I mean, he came in with bulk offloads last week, but he's young. He's developing. If he's running 140 meters and, if they're using him properly, which they started to do last week, I think he could be a real goer. Obviously, Chad Townsend is dropping out of the side this week, so that's the one concern. You've got the new rookie halfback in there. Will he be feeding Wong with a lot of the ball? Like maybe, don't know. But if Wong's price currently at 44 and averaging 62 when he's starting at second row, so there's still a lot of value there, even though he's already gone up like 250K this season. So he's really tempting. The other guy that's really tempting is David Fafita. We all know what David Fafita is capable of. The man pumps out the big scores. Last year, he averaged 59 nearly. He's often been the best edge in fantasy. And last year, he did 59 with only a .2 try scoring rate. The year before, it was a .4 try scoring rate for a 61 in 75 minutes. Last year was 72 minutes with a 59. So you could even say he's got regression to the mean with his try scoring if he gets back to some 2023 form or 2022 form, or even like 2021, it was .7. Like the man can score tries. If we look over his career, .4. So yeah, essentially this season he scored 1 try in 4 games. He's had low minutes. We know what Dave Fifita is capable of. He's dropped a stack of cash. He could be the best edge in fantasy. It is a really tempting buy. The only issue is I feel like he looks not great a lot of the time when you're watching him in the last year or so. Maybe it's under Hasler. I don't know. I just feel like he doesn't he'll go through spurts where he just looks like the best player on the field, and then spurts where he just looks like he can't be bothered. I'm hoping he's been warming up from just the foot injury he had coming into the season, and he's raring up and getting ready to go. He got his first start last week. If he starts again, I think I'd be very tempted to go there. So these are the guys that I'm probably looking at. Another guy is Couchman. He killed me last week just watching him rack up the stats. And I was like, yes, he's on a low score. But then turns out they counted a lot of his stats to, I think it was Stewart. So then they all got added on. He's just a 1 ppm guy. And look, he's probably, with Gula out, he's an amazing pick. When Gula comes back, does he drop back to this 44 minutes, 62 minutes off the bench, that kind of thing? I think he's at least going to get 55 like kind of minutes, which is kind of going to be around that 55. So I really don't mind him as a pick as well. He's a little bit more expensive than the other two. And I don't know, I feel like I missed out on him already, but maybe that's just some, fantasy bias that we have. At least with Wong, he's got a really low break even, and I feel like he can make a bunch more cash. So yeah, it is tricky. But yeah, those are the options, guys, that I'm kind of thinking of at the moment. So for now, I think let's lock in some trades, shall we? Let's get safe out of here. And for now, I'm going to put in Wong. I just think with the buy schedule and leaving me 141K in the bank, it kind of sets me up to look at someone like Preston, like Gilbert to Preston next week. What would that give me? About 700k. So, I can go a Cole down and a Gilbert up to get in a Preston and someone else. Maybe Matty Nicholson is, he puts up a 35 and and then, his cash making is dead in the water and I can just one trade him straight to Preston. So, with Hoskin coming back soon. So it gives me flexibility next week. Maybe it's a Cole up to someone that's looking good, or someone that's, someone's been suspended or injured and someone else is coming in that's in that 500k bracket. So I kind of like that. Although I don't like making these kind of sideways-ish trades, like in price point too much. I like to spend the cash a lot of the time and go up to a guaranteed gun. I feel like a Fafita and a Fogarty are like, you know, Fafita is that long-term guaranteed kind of scorer. Maybe Wong is just a bit of hype that we're jumping on at the moment, and maybe with Radley coming back, they change things around. Obviously, Collins is out, so there's a lot up in the air. But I've been rambling for ages, and I said I would do a short video, so I think that's going to be all for me. Next week, I'm going to try and get on a guest to talk about their team, talk about my team, and same as Mitch, guys. If you have any questions for me, just chuck them in the comments, and I'll go and reply to every comment. And yeah, I'm sure Mitch will be in there as well on his Japanese holiday, giving it a look. So yeah, thanks guys for watching. If you made it to the end, just comment Fogarty right on in the comments. That would be awesome. Really appreciate everyone coming in and listening. And yeah, pretty nerve-wracking doing your first solo one, but hope it wasn't too ranty and too rambly, and hope you got something out of it, guys. Thanks. Bye.